Story 1. Growing up, we either watched the movies again or watched nothing. I have probably seen the original Star Wars more than 100 times. I saw Who Framed Roger Rabbit in the theater 5 times. Story 2. I'd have to say The Big Lebowski. I've lost count of how many times I've watched it, but it's definitely more than 5. The characters and quotes just never get old. Story 3. I've seen The Lord of the Rings so many times I can almost close my eyes and watch it in my head. Story 4. Lord of the Rings, the 3 films. I treat them as one movie. Story 5. If you grew up in the 1980s or 1990s, you watched many movies 20 to 30 times, laughing out loud. Story 6. The Sixth Sense. Titanic. The Wolf of Wall Street. Harold and Kumar Trilogy. The Simpsons Movie. Room 1408. Pulp Fiction. Finding Nemo. Monsters Incorporated. The Beach. Story 7. I am an Indian, so here's my collection. Welcome. Sing is King. Chennai Express. Koi Mil Gaya. Dangal. Story 8. Gladiator. Return of the Jedi. The Fifth Element. Interstellar. Story 9. Star Wars. Episode 4. I have watched that movie more than any other. Some of my best childhood memories with my dad are tied to Star Wars, which always makes me laugh. Story 10. I just can't get enough of The Martian, but I've read the book more times than I've seen the movie. Story 11. Drop Dead Gorgeous, Jesus Loves Winners. Serial Mom, Pussy Willows, Dottie. Role Models, Sturdy Wings. This is 40 Jill's fucking bullshit hair. Story 12. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Each time I watch it, I find something I missed before. Story 13. The Lord of the Rings. I grew up with a box set that included all the special features and watched the entire series a couple of times a year. Story 14. Batman Begins. I saw it 4 times in theaters and many times on digital video disc. I loved it so much for the first 5 years after being raised on the Joel Schumacher Batman films. Story 15. Labyrinth is my favorite movie. I've probably seen it more than 20 times. Story 16. I grew up in the 1980s. Watching the same movie multiple times on different channels and on different days was standard television viewing. It's the reason so many of us keep quoting The Princess Bride, Terminator, The Goonies, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Army of Darkness, Star Wars, and all those Police Academy movies and so on. I could spend hours listing just bad movies I regret having seen more than 5 times. Damn it. Now I remember how many times I've watched Titanic completely. Story 17. Kill Bill. I do not even think it is a good film. It is just highly entertaining. The original Star Wars trilogy. Story 18. I have seen The Princess Bride 37 times. Saving Private Ryan came out the same year my grandfather died. I watch it every Remembrance Day in his memory. I watch Bad Santa and It's a Wonderful Life every Christmas. The secret to watching Bad Santa is to end the movie 2 minutes before it officially ends. That cuts out the Hollywood ending and leaves him lying on the ground in front of the house. Also use the 1 hour and 45-minute version. Too much was edited out of the other versions. Story 19. There are many, but the best is The Big Lebowski. It is an outstanding movie, and that is not just my opinion. Story 20. I rewatch several every Christmas. The Muppet Christmas Carol, It's a Wonderful Life, Scrooged, and Die Hard 2. There are many others, and by middle age you have seen plenty of films multiple times. Story 21. The Nightmare Before Christmas. I used to watch it every Halloween with a friend. Since moving abroad, we now watch it when I'm back home every Christmas. Story 22. There are so many movies. Clerks 2, Clue, The Shining, Airplane, Django Unchained. I could go on, but I have to work. Story 23, Forrest Gump, and I read the book before the movie was made. It was a great read with many more adventures. Story 24. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Story 25. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Repo the Genetic Opera. Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Blog. I have performed in shadowcasts of the first 3 films multiple times. Tank Girl. Donnie Darko. Story 26. There are too many to list, laughing out loud. I grew up in the 1980s in a house with cable. There are absolutely terrible movies I have watched more than 5 times. Story 27, Back to the Future. I have probably watched the whole trilogy more than 5 times. Blast from the Past, Independence Day, Men in Black, Dances with Wolves, Rain Man, Flight of the Navigator, Blackbeard's Ghost, Ordinary People, and Regarding Henry. Story 28, RRR. Fight Club, Primer. The Nightmare Before Christmas. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1990. The Princess Bride. Star Wars, Episodes I through 6. The Lord of the Rings, all films. The Hobbit, all films. City of Ember. The Boondock Saints. Avatar. Alita Battle Angel. The Burbs. Christmas Story. Christmas Vacation. The Goonies. The Terminator. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Hackers. The Fast and the Furious. The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Cars. Cars 3. Coraline. The Lego Movie. Dragonheart. Interstellar. Toy Story. Buckaroo Banzai. Back to the Future, all 3 films. The Babysitter's Club. Pretty in Pink. 16 Candles. Alien. American History X. The Beach. A Beautiful Mind. Good Will Hunting. Big Hero 6. Clerks. Clerks 2. The Evil Dead. I could keep going, but the list would be much longer. Story 29. Jacques Tati's films Mon Oncle and Playtime are like dear friends I visit every couple of years. Story 30. The Avengers. I may have reached double digits at this point. Story 31. The Birdcage and Couples Retreat. Classics include Key Largo, Casablanca, Double Indemnity, and any film by the Marx Brothers. Story 32. Independence Day, Jurassic Park, Christmas Vacation, Avengers, Endgame, and Avengers, Infinity War. Story 33. The 10th Kingdom. I don't remember the runtime, but I recall it spanned 2 full video home system tapes and later 3 discs. It was the perpetual stew of our entertainment system. Story 34. The First Men in Black is one of my favorite all-time movies. Story 35. A League of Their Own, The Godfather Part 2, The Wizard of Oz, The Princess Bride, White Christmas, The Santa Claus, The Sound of Music, The Big Chill. Story 36. Mean Girls. It's basically cultural education at this point. Story 37. Jurassic Park, Wall-E, The Matrix, The Shawshank Redemption, and more. Story 38. The Princess Bride is a movie I watched many times as a child. Story 39. The Lord of the Rings Trilogy. Rush Hour 1 and 2. Hocus Pocus. The Avengers 2012. Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Knives Out is coming up on the 5th. Story 40. Ferris Bueller's Day Off seemed to be on television every day after school when I was young. I have the movie memorized. The swear words were dubbed over, so hearing the original dialogue sounds strange. Story 41. Harold and Maude 1941. It is a mad world. The Goonies, War Games, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Pump Up the Volume, The Breakfast Club, Safe for Work, High Fidelity. Too many. And yes, I am Generation X. Story 42. The Wizard of Oz. The Princess Bride. Police Academy. Spaceballs. Scary Movie. Short Circuit. The Lord of the Rings Trilogy. Back to the Future Trilogy. Indiana Jones Trilogy. Star Wars Original Trilogy and Prequel Trilogy. Marvel movies through Avengers Endgame. The Chronicles of Narnia. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Ever After. Alien and Aliens. If. Die Hard Trilogy. Scrooged. Home Alone. The Fifth Element. Star Trek 1 through 5. The Matrix Trilogy. John Wick 1 and 2. Ready Player One. Jumanji Original and the first reboot. Jaws. The Thing. Harry Potter 1 through 7. The Hunger Games. Jurassic Park 1 and 2. Jurassic World. Many others I can't think of right now. I also forgot the children's movies. Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, and Blue Sky animated films released approximately between 1995 and 2018. Story 43. The Usual Suspects. All the Marvel movies. The Transformers films. Story 44. Sorry to bother you. My husband and I realized our friends hadn't seen it, so we had to watch it with them. Story 45. I watched Anastasia so many times as a kid that I could quote the whole movie verbatim. During my high school exams, we were not allowed to leave the hall until the 3 hours were up. So when I finished my paper, I would close my eyes and play the movie in my head. Story 46. The Sound of Music, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, About Last Night, Tootsie, Kramer vs. Kramer, Jaws. Story 47. This question is ludicrous. I have seen this hundreds of times. Story 48. I saw Interstellar 7 times at IMAX during its 10-year anniversary last year, and twice more this year. Story 49. The hunt for Red October is ridiculous, probably wildly inaccurate in a million ways, but it has a killer cast. It is the first Jack Ryan movie. I watched it again last night. Story 50. Are there people who only watch movies once? If I had to make a list of movies I've watched more than 5 times, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to write a book no one would read. Story 51. The first Mr. Bean movie and at least 4 of the 7 were unintentional. Story 52. Here are some, not including the ones I played on repeat as a child. The Lord of the Rings, Extended Edition. The Matrix Trilogy. The Star Wars Saga, Episodes 1 through 6. The Room. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Hot Rod. Napoleon Dynamite. Kung Pao. Enter the Fist. Lawrence of Arabia. The Great Escape. Rear Window. Vertigo. Synecdoche, New York. Inland Empire. The Sound of Music. If. Stranger Than Fiction. Limitless. Memento. The Fountain. Enter the Void. Forrest Gump. The Princess Bride. Mandy. Good Will Hunting. The Big Lebowski. No Country for Old Men. There Will Be Blood. Spirited Away. American Beauty. Bunny Labyrinth. Princess Mononoke. My Neighbor Totoro. V for Vendetta. A Beautiful Mind. Fargo. Dial M for Murder. American Psycho. Donnie Darko. The Prestige. Clockwork Orange. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The Christopher Nolan Batman Trilogy. Inception. Interstellar. The Godfather. Pulp Fiction. Scarface. Die Hard. The Bourne Identity. Groundhog Day. The Harry Potter series. So Wonderful Life. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. The Shining. Misery. Avatar. Transformers. Not all of these are equal, and some I have watched much more than 5 times, but these are the ones I can think of. Story 53. Hidden Figures. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. English Vinglish. Story 54. The Goodbye Girl is a 1977 film starring Richard Dreyfuss. I love this movie. Story 55. Ratatouille, Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, and The Birdcage. One of these is almost always on when I'm working and need background noise. Story 56. Forrest Gump gets me every time. All the emotions. Even when I know exactly what is coming, it still makes me teary. Story 57. There are too many to list, but Bullet, The Great Escape, Goodfellas, The Shawshank Redemption, and the Mission Impossible films are a few. Story 58. Hunt for the Wilderpeople. Funny and heartfelt. Also several Christmas movies. Story 59. These are movies I have watched more than 20 times. The original Star Wars trilogy at least twice this year and many times every year for as long as I can remember. Rogue One. I rewatched it last week and saw it more than 20 times in the theater. The Lord of the Rings trilogy at least 3 times this year and dozens of times before. Alien and Aliens 3 or 4 times this year and multiple times a year for as long as I recall. And many more. I am sure I am not alone in rewatching these regularly. Story 60. 2001. A Space Odyssey. Too many times to count. Office Space. Every time we hired people we would watch it. Idiocracy. The Matrix. Story 61. The Dark Knight got me into movies when I was a 13-year-old, and it still holds up on every watch. Story 62. Do not be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. Story 63. I could probably do a fairly good job of transcribing the script of Pulp Fiction from memory. Story 64. The Wizard of Oz, Casablanca, Gone with the Wind, Laura, Manhattan. Story 65. Too many to list here. I have seen so many movies that I have memorized them the way a stage actor memorizes lines from Shakespeare. For example, I watched The Godfather 3 times this year alone and have seen it dozens of times before. Story 66. When Encanto came out, my husband and I were obsessed with it for 2 weeks. Story 67. Dune, True Romance, Elf, Home Alone, Die Hard, and all the original Star Wars films. There must be more than 20, especially the Christmas movies. Story 68. Scott Pilgrim. The movie spoke to me on so many levels when it was released. I saw the first Harry Potter movie 3 times back to back. My ex-stepmother was a champ. Story 69. Avatar 1 and Avatar 2, the original Lion King, Pocahontas, Christmas Vacation, The Patriot. Story 70. Lots, but the most recent is Korean pop Demon Hunters. Others I can think of off the top of my head are Falling Down, Mean Girls, Die Hard, Rocky Horror Picture Show, South Park Bigger, Longer and Uncut, Tangled, Barbie, and all 3 Deadpool movies. Story 71. V for Vendetta, 4 Good Days, The Coneheads. There might be some more, but I can't think of them right now. Story 72. This month. Gladiator, The Martian, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Jurassic Park, and The Menu. Story 73. I would much rather rewatch a movie I liked than watch a recent one that I find uninteresting. Story 74. Star Wars. I have watched The Lord of the Rings more times than I can count. John Wick, The Departed. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is a holiday tradition. I am sure there are many more. Story 75. Raiders of the Lost Arkansas. The Right Stuff, Braveheart, iRobot, Holiday List, Wizard of Oz, It's a Wonderful Life, Scrooge with Alastair Sim, A Charlie Brown Christmas, Elf, A Christmas Story. Story 76. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Addams Family, Terminator 2, The Lord of the Rings, Tenet. Probably more back in the day on home box office. Story 77. Almost all of the movies are from before 2000. I have no high-speed internet and only satellite network television. They play the same movies over and over. Most are from 2000 or earlier. Story 78. Unfortunately, I can't watch a movie multiple times, maybe twice at most. However, there are a couple of movies I have probably seen more than 5 times. Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2, mostly because they are on television every year. One way or another, I end up watching them, or at least parts of them. Story 79. Lately, I have been obsessed with Beauty and the Beast. Story 80. Nearly every John Wayne movie. Christmas Vacation. It is a Wonderful Life. The Wizard of Oz. Home Alone. And many more. Story 81. Legends of the Fall. Meet Joe Black. The Lord of the Rings series extended edition. Pulp Fiction. The Twilight Samurai. The Alien film series. The Princess Bride. Many more I cannot recall right this moment. Story 82. Call Me by Your Name. My first lesbian breakup was in 2017, and I did not take it well, laughing out loud. I also watched Carol probably a dozen times that winter. Story 83. Shaolin Soccer. I cannot resist watching it when I find it on a television channel, and sometimes I stream it to laugh while eating. Story 84. Star Wars original trilogy and the prequels were watched over 40 times. The Lord of the Rings films were watched around 20 times. Avengers, Infinity War and Avengers Endgame were each watched around 15 times. The Dark Knight was watched over 20 times. Story 85. Robin Hood, Men in Tights, Spaceballs, Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2, Men in Black 1 and Men in Black 2, A Fistful of Dollars, 2 Mules for Sister Sarah. Story 86. According to my parents, since I was very young, I have watched Monsters Incorporated and Finding Nemo at least 29 times each. I still rewatch them every so often. I have also seen the Star Wars original trilogy and the Star Wars prequel trilogy at least 10 times each. Story 87. Any of the Bourne movies, Batman, The Dark Knight, and Shooter. Story 88, Beetlejuice, Child's Play, The Fifth Element, Spaceballs, The Princess Bride, Biodome, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Story 89, I cannot count how many times I watched Mallrats back in the day. Story 90, when I was young, I watched a Goofy movie 10 quadrillion times. Story 91, Stalker, 1979. I will watch it as many times as possible and never tire of it. Story 92, Pride and Prejudice, 2005. Atonement, 2007. Bend It Like Beckham. Dune. Dune 2. Story 93, Christmas Vacation. I have watched it more than 5 times this month. Story 94, Vegas Vacation is probably my most watched movie. It still hits the same every time. Story 95, every Star Trek movie, including The Final Frontier, Nemesis, and Into Darkness. All 3 Back to the Future films. Story 96, Dirty Dancing, Footloose, Hereditary, Get Out, The Breakfast Club, Grease. Story 97, Man on Fire. I love the soundtrack, story, acting, and location. She calls the bear Creasy Bear. Story 98, we watched a lot, especially before streaming services were a thing. At present, I would say Die Hard is the one we rewatch once a year because it is tradition. Story 99, The Godfather, The Silence of the Lambs, A Christmas Carol, 1951, Elf. Story 100, The Lord of the Rings Trilogy, The Scream series, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, The Terrifier Trilogy so far, The Wizard of Oz, Ghostbusters 1 and 2, most Disney movies up through 2020. Story 101, I have several, The Big Lebowski, 7, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, Chasing Amy, Jacob's Ladder, and The Killing Fields. Story 102, I have kids. Just name a Disney film. Most recently it was Matilda until I banned it. Story 103, when I was a kid, I saw Jurassic Park 12 times while it was in theaters. Story 104, I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes, more like 500 times. Story 105, Popstar. Never Stop, Never Stopping. She's All That. Clueless. Scream. The Shining. Joe Dirt. My list could actually go on forever. Story 106, James Cameron's Avatar is my comfort film. I have watched it more than 100 times. I love the blue, space-dwelling, Pocahontas-like character. Story 107, Singin' in the Rain. Tremors. The Fifth Element. Die Hard. Jurassic Park. Story 108, I probably watch The Land Before Time 5 times a day. Story 109, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days to All the Boys I've Loved Before the Holiday, Pirates of the Caribbean, 10 Things I Hate About You, The Fault in Our Stars. Story 110, The 5 Heartbeats, The Princess Bride, Burlesque, Dirty Dancing, The Birdcage, It's a Wonderful Life, The Best Man. Story 111, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, and Paul, also known as the Cornetto Trilogy. Story 112, Our video home system tapes from when I was a child because there was not much else. Story 113, Jay and Silent Bob makes me laugh hysterically. Airplane, The Blues Brothers, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and the African Queen. Story 114, The Silence of the Lambs, Little Shop of Horrors, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, Super, Step Brothers, Pitch Perfect, Live Action Beauty and the Beast. I'm not sure what that says about me. Story 115, the original Star Wars trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Matrix, The Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, Home Alone 1 and 2. Story 116, My Cousin Vinny. My mom and I could probably perform it from memory. Story 117, I guess that fits the season. Each year I watch 3 or 4 Christmas films. Home Alone, Jingle All the Way, Elf, and The Muppet Christmas Carol on Christmas Eve. Story 118, I've watched Dumb and Dumber at least 1,000 times. I can recite the script from memory. Story 119, I've seen Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've watched the last 3/4 to 1/2 of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Dirty Dancing, and The Breakfast Club dozens of times. I usually found them by flipping channels. They were shown frequently and were often just better than the alternatives. I think I have seen the beginnings of those films fewer than half a dozen times between them. I may never have seen the beginning of Dirty Dancing, as far as I can remember. Thanks to broadcast television, I have seen The Wizard of Oz dozens of times despite having no real love for it. I have watched films such as The Matrix, The Black Hole, The Dark Crystal, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, The Fifth Element, Back to the Future Parts 1 through 3, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, Ghostbusters, The Princess Bride, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America, Civil War, and Elf more than a dozen times each. My significant other really likes Elf. I mostly tolerate it. We have also started a tradition of watching Klaus on Netflix each year. That is a Christmas movie I actually enjoy, and we have watched it more than 5 times. There are certainly more I am not thinking of. I grew up in the pre-streaming days, which encouraged rewatching whatever was on broadcast or what you had on video home system tapes, digital versatile discs, and Blu-ray discs. Story 120. All the Guy Ritchie films. Most of Jean-Claude Van Damme's films. All of Quentin Tarantino's films. All of the Back to the Future films. Most Mafia films. Breaking Bad and The Sopranos. Most of the Disney cartoons because my mom had the entire collection growing up. I have seen hundreds, if not thousands, more, too many to mention. Growing up, we did not have streaming, so we watched what we had. Story 121. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. O brother, where art thou? Story 122. The Lord of the Rings Extended Series. Howl's Moving Castle. Pride and Prejudice 2005. Story 123. Wall-E. I always used this movie to talk about climate change with my middle school students. The Lord of the Rings. I'm due to rewatch these films for the holidays. My favorite is The Two Towers. My all-time favorite movie is Clue. I probably watched it more than 10 times when I was younger and would constantly re-rent it from Blockbuster. Story 124. My dad had movie phases where we watched the same movie over and over until the next came along. Examples include Gladiator, The Fifth Element, my favorite, The Last Samurai, and Sparta. Story 125. Probably Animal House and Caddyshack. Oh, and Dumb and Dumber because it was always on some channel on Sunday afternoons. I have refined taste. Story 126. Inception, The Dark Knight, Training Day, Man on Fire, Catch Me If You Can. Story 127. Pride and Prejudice, starring Keira Knightley. I watch it at least once a year. Story 128. Star Wars. A New Hope. The Empire Strikes Back. Deep Cover. The Dark Crystal. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Highlander. The Princess Bride. Casablanca. Tampopo. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Akira. Ninja Scroll. The Seven Samurai. Snatch. The Matrix. Spirited Away. The Terminator. Fableman. RoboCop. The Fifth Element. And more. Story 129. Off the top of my head, there are definitely more. The Road to El Dorado. The Adventures of Tintin. Horrible Bosses. Just Go With It. The Mummy 1999. Megamind. Knives Out. Story 130. The Lord of the Rings. The Fellowship of the Ring. I saw it 13 times in theaters and countless times afterward. I went with my older brother every time because I was still in 7th grade. He would go with any friend who had not seen it yet. We were all big nerds. Christopher Nolan's Batman film, The Dark Knight. I have seen that one many times. The entire Harry Potter film series. My wife and I, when we got together, watched them all between Christmas and New Year's, and it became a tradition. Vampire Interdit. Akira. There are many others I have seen 5 or more times. Some recent ones are Korean Pop Demon Hunters, both big-budget Paw Patrol movies, and Baby Shark's big movie since we have kids. Story 131. Star Trek II. The Wrath of Khan. The Ninth Gate. A few others. Story 132. I watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show 76 times in a row when I was in high school. Story 133. I watch Life of Pi when I feel lost in life and need the strength to go on. Story 134. The Lord of the Rings Trilogy. The Matrix. The Goonies. The Alien Trilogy. The Visitor. Home Alone and Home Alone 2. The Usual Suspects. The Indiana Jones Trilogy. Story 135. Growing up, there were a lot, and Die Hard stands out the most. I did not have many options, so I rewatched every videocassette we had, laughing out loud. As an adult, there are fewer but Superbad, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame stand out the most, as do the Captain America movies. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.